Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out to our noon session. We appreciate it. And we have a great group here. This is the creation of our newest PDMI council, the e-commerce council, of which Greg Silvano from Mojo is the chair of that council. We pulled together, yeah. If you're interested in joining the council, reach out to me or Greg. We'd love to have you. I think we have 8 members to start, so we're looking to grow it. But pulled together a great group up here. We've got a special ad today with Jeff Meltzer joining the panel, Kathi Moore from Fareportal, Willin from Verve Direct, San Diego local, and of course Greg. We have to say thank you to Greg and Mojo for their sponsorship of the educational sessions. I will not play the video to avoid a meta moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm just going to throw it to you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you very much. All right, so to start this, I'm going to go with a little intro before we dive into the panel itself and explain why this is important. It becomes increasingly important every year. So we're here as the PDMI, Performance-Driven Marketing Institute. We are marketers, right? At the end of the day, we are marketers, and we are performance-driven marketers because we have a product, we have a service we're trying to sell, we're trying to get them to a place to buy that. So that is not branding, it is performance-driven. So at the end of the day, we are all direct-to-consumer somehow, right? We have a marketing campaign to drive somebody to a place to actually buy that product. They buy that product, and we go and we ship it out. Direct-to-consumer 101. If this was a high school audience, we were doing direct-to-consumer 101, that would be it. That's the whole topic. It is, you have marketing, you have an actual transaction that happens, you ship the product out. But the reality is, campaigns today are not that clean. It's never just you doing the marketing. Even if you hire somebody, you're not doing the marketing yourself. It's never just one place that the marketing is happening. It's never really just one place that you have that transaction happening, your own site, that e-commerce site. And sometimes it's not even the same thing, same place with shipping. So the question is, those lines that used to be very, very clear, one person's responsible, one agency or one thing is responsible for that marketing, one thing is responsible for that website, one thing is responsible for the shipping. As soon as you add another variable into that, let's say Amazon, right? So now you're launching your product, your launch strategy is not just you are doing marketing and a Facebook campaign and driving to your website and then you go ship off the product. Maybe you're going to launch on Amazon as well. Those lines that used to be very, very clear get blurred or sometimes just completely get eliminated. So in those moments where the blurred lines happen, let's say with Amazon, what if they're running ads about your product, right? That starts to complicate that. Are you driving traffic in your ads? Are you going to Amazon? Are you driving to your own e-commerce product, your own e-commerce platform? Who's shipping the product? Are you coexisting well, or are you actually competing in some areas? And that's just Amazon. That's the simplest one. So at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't understand, if they don't know what they're getting into, if they're not experts in it, is that those collisions end up eating a lot of your time, right? You have to spend a lot of energy, a lot of planning in order to either eliminate that conflict that happens and get them to coexist. So that's where we are today. To start, the format of this is going to be informal, right? It's going to be some questions, lob them out there. If you have questions, ask them at any time. It's very informal. And everybody's just going to answer. Pretty simple. So here we go. We're going to start with this. In the Results magazine, sorry, I have a frog. We're good. All right. Results magazine cover story this month. Question was asked, what are the 3 things marketers should know right now as they consider the e-commerce game plan? And Matthew from DFO Global answered it. He couldn't be here today. And his answer touched upon this, and I want the panel to dive in. He said, second, Amazon plus D2C. If you are a D2C brand that isn't harnessing Amazon, you're missing out on potential sales, and if you aren't harvesting Amazon, you're missing out on potential sales and revenue. If you are an Amazon-only brand, you're missing out on collecting customer data, upsells, remarketing, and other creative D2C efforts. So the question is, that scenario that I gave at the beginning, that true D2C brand, right? D2C campaign, we have marketing, your own site, and your own fulfillment. Does that even really exist? Okay, is there a play where It is that clean 101 D2C where there is no third variable. There is no Amazon, there is no Walmart, there is no affiliate network, there's no competing brands. Is there a scenario where there is no conflict, there is no coexisting, you really do own the whole world you're in, or is this something that always happens? Anybody?
I would say there's one area where that does still exist. It's inside your mobile app. It's the only place you have where your consumer is not, if they are in your app, they're looking at your messaging and nobody else's.
And if you have a mobile app, so what's the product at that point though? In order to get that mobile app, you have to do marketing.
Oh, of course.
Right? Would you ever use affiliates to get people to do those, to download
To
your app?
download apps, certainly. Yeah. Well, it's the only answer I could think of.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
There really isn't any, I mean, the big answer is no. There's no single way to get to a consumer anymore. They're getting touched a million different ways from a million different areas. Mm-hmm. But once you have them, if you can get them into your app, and I don't own an app company, but I still believe that mobile app is the one place where if you can get that download, if you can get that customer coming back and engaging with you on a regular basis, you do have the opportunity to talk to them without the distraction of everyone else's SEM ads.
Okay, that's fair.
So,
Jeff?
I would have to agree mostly with Kathi. There's probably a 1%er there that there's a possibility of having an open playing field that's completely uncontaminated. I apologize because I'm vocally challenged here.
you're imitating Al Pacino now.
That's my normal voice. Yeah. If it is a new product, and I've done this recently, which you control, has no presence anywhere other than the launch, has not been, can't be bought anywhere online, can't be bought anywhere in retail, is basically just a fresh launch that is being driven in a traditional direct response. You could hold on to that for, the test.
Yes.
And then you could really measure. But for the most part, everything is contaminated, everything is crossed, and that piece of the digital pie is sliced up according to what your strategy is and how you want to sell. Mm-hmm. So what this fellow in Results said is totally true. Without Amazon, you're missing out. If you're only trying to sell without Amazon, you're missing out. Mm-hmm. So it's that balance of trying to figure out which one gets the more weight, pricing, mm-hmm. How do you price on one and not affect the other? So there's a lot of variables, but the simple answer is yeah, no. There's no pure campaigns anymore.
Do you think that when somebody is considering launching a product, that actual launch strategy of a product, how well, no matter, Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. How well does that launch strategy actually adhere to the best of intentions? Or is it always ready, fire, aim? I mean, are there rules, and if you follow the rules, you're A-okay? Or is it's just the Wild West because there are just so many variables out there and you have to keep reacting?
I mean, to me, it's B.
Yeah, I mean...
Actually, you know what? Hold on. I want to hear Wild Wild West or you can play the game. Quick answer on, is it Wild Wild West or you can play the game?
I think you can play the game.
Kathi?
Play the game.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I'm going Wild Wild West. You can't play the game, but eventually you lose that game.
So back to Mai.
Yeah, I guess kind of backtracking a little bit about Matt's statement, like it's definitely true. You need to have both components of Amazon and D2C. One of them, I think Amazon kind of supplements D2C where you can't just survive off Amazon alone. I know that there are certain brands that are products that run only on there, but they're definitely just limiting their reach, right? As far as having a game plan, I think in my world, I work with a lot of media buyers and traffic sources. There is a technique on what you need to do to reach the audience and things that do make them tick. So, like for instance, like right now, like TikTok is a huge source that we're diving into. Like I will tell you hands down, like don't spend any money on like any creative, like huge budgets on media right now, like, or creative. It's all UGC that's going to be the power. So that's like a tactic that you just have to leverage.
UGC is
Yeah,
user-generated content.
User-generated content. So basically, like me or you just holding your phone up and recording a snippet of why this product is great.
Would you consider reviews and testimonial UGC?
Depending on how it's filmed.
Or is it
yes.
more, so it's a video
Yeah,
thing?
it's definitely the way how it's filmed, because you can have like more of a professional style review, which is more common on YouTube, I would say. And that's like a little bit more refined, where the more organic it looks, and this is TikTok specifically, that's where you're really going to have like a better edge on the traffic platforms.
Mm-hmm. Can you use that kind of content on Amazon?
So it's funny. So I'm not too familiar with Amazon specifically. I know that Amazon has started something called like Amazon Live, which is, I think, is going to be similar, but it's not. I wouldn't consider
Is that
it like
the
UGC.
QVC type?
Yeah.
environment? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Like they're leveraging more influencers now. Yeah, it's a very interesting space that we're kind of getting into.
The way I've always understood Amazon, and I'm also not an Amazon expert, is that Amazon is its own thing. In theory, the reviews that happen on Amazon are for Amazon, and you can't necessarily just take them and use them on your own site. And content like that, UGC, you might have that on your own microsite. You might have that on your, you might use that on your Facebook ads and everywhere else, but you might not be able to actually use that on Amazon because that's just not how Amazon's platform works. Which brings up one of the points that we'll get into today, which is having a unified message across all these things. So, you talked about affiliates is a big part of your world. So if you think about that scenario I gave earlier with just introducing Amazon into the mix and how that impacts absolutely everything across that direct-to-consumer campaign, that's just Amazon. Imagine bringing in an affiliate where they're getting paid for every order that they bring in. And I mean, clearly the collisions that can happen there, right? At the end of the day, you as the marketer, you want the sale. They want that sale even more because it's the only way that they're going to get paid. And what are they willing to do that? And is that, arms locked in stride together, on the same mission? And no, not necessarily. So on that comment, going back to the unified message and things like that, affiliates, is that something that you would bring in instantly in a campaign, or do you grow into that? And affiliates, actually, let's even back up further than that, because I think it's unfair to just say affiliates, because affiliates, for me, it's a 10-year-old term, and I've never updated with a definition of it. So
It's still used.
yeah, exactly.
It's
But I mean,
definitely
to me, it's the renegade guys that are sitting in their mom's basement trying to outrank you in Google. Is that necessarily the case anymore?
It's totally different now. I think the affiliates that I work with, they are true independent media buyers. So they are spending millions on different traffic sources like native, Facebook, Google, now TikTok. Some are emailers. I think SEO is a bit dated now for most affiliates. So the ones that are really making it work, they're more of agencies where we're partnering with them now. So it's more of a partnership than anything. And I think going back to Amazon, like affiliates hate Amazon because they essentially kind of lose out on their sale, right? Like they're driving all this traffic and people go into Amazon and purchase on there based on, shipping times or whatever, convenience, or they're just seeing the reviews on there. But that's kind of where like we bake in a very nice CPA, which is a payout for them, to make sure we like offset, like we cover those acquisition costs for them.
And when choosing affiliates, is it because of the channel that they tend to focus on? Is that the deciding factor, or is it, I don't know, how do you pick that we want to use these guys?
Yeah, we have a very intense like vetting process of affiliates that we work with. So it's not like, oh, you can just come into our platform and pull a link to run, right? Like we make sure that they're a good fit based on what they've ran historically, what traffic platforms they promote on. And we give them like a set of brand guidelines as well, because that's also really important as a e-commerce company to protect our brand and to make sure all the marketing materials that's out there is true. So yeah.
Could you imagine a campaign? Let's say a campaign product has been running for a couple of years. You're on Amazon. You're humming along. Is there a scenario where you just wouldn't think, an affiliate partner is the right way to scale? I mean, is it one of those things that it just becomes inevitable at some point that there are these experts out there and you should tap into that almost every time? Or is it for certain kind of niches that where it feels right? Are there price point considerations?
Yeah, I think it's also a price point consideration, right? Like a lot of the affiliates that run with us, like you have to have a very compelling angle of the product, right?
You're competing with,
Yeah.
for their attention.
Exactly.
They don't, if you're just selling, Apple Watch bands,
Yeah, like-
everybody is.
Exactly. Like that's maybe more of an Amazon play, right? Where like we probably wouldn't introduce that to affiliates, like if it's just a watch band replacement. So we are selective of which products we bring onto our network and which ones that we just leave on Amazon.
And if, not to harp too long on affiliates here, sorry.
No,
Just
this
gonna
is
keep going.
interesting.
With affiliates, if left to their own devices, unmanaged, okay, so let's say I've got my own product and I go up to a website that has some affiliates that I can sign up for, and I don't know what I'm doing. What is the likelihood I'm going to be competing with them or coexisting nicely with them?
Yep. You're going to be probably competing with them.
Competing with them.
Yeah.
So what are the things, so management is key.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're bringing on the affiliate side of the world and we're talking about competing or coexisting, managing affiliates, because if left to their own devices, they want the sale. What are the things that you absolutely have to manage them on? You mentioned the messaging, the branding.
Yeah, I mean, I think a creative guideline is very, very important. You have to make sure, there's do's and don'ts of what they can say in their marketing material, making sure that they are running with it. So, I manage a team of 8 affiliate managers now that have very, very close relationships with these affiliates. So we're pretty hands-on with like what they're running and what's being put out there.
Right, so they can't make claims that the product can't really do.
Exactly, like all the specs. Because I mean, when it comes down to it, it falls back on your brand, your customer service, your refunds, your chargebacks. Like what they put out there there's a definite impact on your business. Whether it's scale, which is great, but then also if they're not marketing it the right way, then that can also bite you in the behind.
Beautiful, thank you.
There's also media tactics as well. I mean, messaging absolutely the most important. I mean, technically I'm a VP of branding, so that's always my first consideration. But we also, because we have thousands and thousands of affiliate partners, and the idea that they can go in and bid on our own keywords is probably, our brand keywords, that's in our contract.
So I'm gonna pause you.
And the bigger players know that. They're never going to do that. They're not going to bid on cheapoware. They know they can't do that.
I'll
But
pause you there for 1 second because you have the best story that I want you to lead into with this. Kathi has a scenario where her company has multiple brands that compete with each other. So certain keywords on Google, that under the same company, certain brands need the same keywords. So I mean, there's a very definition of competing or coexisting. So sorry, keep going.
Yeah, well, from the affiliate standpoint, it's making sure that the larger companies, in fact, I think I saw Rakuten is actually here this week. I mean, they're one of our hugest partners. A company like that is not going to bid on our keywords or allow any of their publishers to bid on our keywords. But the Cowboys do, and so our legal team spends a lot of time running that down and stopping that. Not on the affiliates area, but funnily enough, yes, multiple brands, you become your own competition. We're a travel company, so we have cheapoware.com, and we have another brand called One Travel. And between the two of them, the third largest now, it used to be second, third largest seller of flight tickets in the world. So they're big, but they're the house that digital built. And the phrase cheap flights is the #1 most searched term in travel for flight tickets. Cheap flights is the one you want.
That must be what, 50 cents a click?
35. Actually, pretty cheap.
Oh, really?
But yeah, no, we run about 35 cents.
Is it really?
Yeah, but we're also the single largest purchaser of flight keywords in the world. Wow. So yeah, they're good at it. I'm not the one that runs that, but when you have cheapoware needs that keyword, you have One Travel that needs that keyword. So we have teams. They have tried every way in the world. Do we blend those teams for their SEM expertise? Do we separate those teams so that the brand managers can go after what they need for their brand? And we ultimately realized that we couldn't separate the teams. We had to just spend every day balancing the needs of the two brands and who can afford this per click and who can afford that per click per day.
So the number
And
one
in a perfect
search term.
world, we're number 1 and number 2 in results.
Right, so the number one search term of probably one of the most searched for things on Google. And
Right.
one of the biggest companies in that space still doesn't have a clear answer, right?
Nope, it changes, funnily enough, it changes.
And that's an
every day.
internal problem. That's not even with affiliates. I mean,
Well, you know, we look to, I think the e-commerce world has introduced this notion that we can systematize everything and then we can take out the human element. And the human element still has to be there because there's always going to be something going on within your company, within some element, some aspect, something in a completely different division that might affect what is the right thing to do for the company that particular day. And AI can't solve for that. So.
Could I give you a
Please.
completely different perspective?
Corporate agency.
It couldn't have been a better time for this question because this is an absolutely a historical 360 on affiliate marketing and what happened. So traditionally you had a product, an agency, a commercial, a website. You drove people to it. Simple, right? Not really much competition, even if there was an affiliate. It was all funneling into the same place. So I did that for a brand. It's I won't say who it is, but it's the inventor of tooth whitening. So they grew, national brand, huge, tens of millions, added Facebook, social media. Long story short, up today, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere you can pretty much go, okay? Now the brand is it's probably one of the strongest independently, right below where let's say Crest or Arm & Hammer or any of the ones, the real national chains. This is a privately owned company with a very high-end USP and recognition, and they have a 94% retention rate. It's insane.
Wow.
94%. You try this product, you do not switch.
so it's not a fly-by-night thing.
No, and it's not cheap, but truthfully, it's worth what you pay. So I get a call. So I worked with them for about 10, maybe 12 years. Dissipated. I don't know how many years has gone by. I got a call. They said, we need your help. It's the owner. She said, we have somebody doing TikTok, somebody doing Facebook, somebody's posting on Instagram. We've got 1 million videos, and our sales have flattened, right? Some are a little bit better, depending on the channels of the day or whatever it is that they're spending, which keywords. Nothing to do with the videos. It's not a creative industry, you know that. It's data-driven. So she said, but we're all over the place. Nobody is maintaining the messaging. So as you said, when it comes to proving out their worth in terms of an affiliate or a digital media buyer, they're going to go to get whatever the sale is at whatever cost.
Yep.
And this brand is being splintered.
Yeah.
So they said, can you take a look at the stuff? And when I looked at it, it was like, look, it's not, you're not selling the same, way to a millennial or a TikTok, user or reviews or, whatever it is. But that messaging, what we all know in this industry in terms of our, 3 main selling points, our USPs and all that, that doesn't go away. Selling's selling. It's the way it's formatted. That's what changes.
Totally
so when I
agree.
looked at it, right. So when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, this is a mess. It's just like, they're outside the Empire State Building brushing their teeth or whatever it is. I'm like, no, that's not who these people are. So the message here is now, hey, we need to take all of those people and either get rid of them, or you have to become, what we do, a turnkey contractor, and try and get everybody to be on the same page in the format that they want to do, but using the principles of D2C, so it then is even across the board.
So how much pushback would you get that from each of those agencies or individuals, even if they're internal?
None.
Because what you have to do is convince them that the D2C message is the right one.
Well,
and
they're
that's
convinced.
not a belief that everybody will have.
You're 100%. And immediately when I told them that, and of course this is the chief marketing officer who worked for a massive,
Exactly right.
one of the biggest cosmetic companies, in the world. And look, I know that he knew what he knew. And I'm saying it didn't, but he didn't know the D2C. And he, they look sideways at you when you say that. They're like, what? And I'm like, well, let's not take my word for it. Let's call with this digital agency that we're using. And I said nothing. It's literally nothing. Zoom call. Lots of boxes. And he repeated exactly what I said. I just sat there in that box going, because it takes usually 2 or 3 opinions from people who actually do it.
Oh, yeah.
With boots on the ground, because the client or the brand never takes one person's thing. That's why when an agency, if it's a digital media buyer that says we're going to post videos on TikTok now, they know that segment, but not how it integrates, and not how it affects that brand, and how it affects the sale.
So how does a company, how do they solve that just with resources? So for example, you bring on a digital agency. Part of the pitch of that digital agency is that we're going to help you with the creative. We're going to do the creative for you, right? I mean, that's part of the pitch, because you might not have the scale, or you might just not be a particularly creative agency. A company, you just have the product, and you made a wonderful product. Right. How do you, and then clearly that could be just for one digital media channel, and then something else, somebody else handling Amazon. Who owns that message, and how do you enforce that, and how do you make that happen? It seems like it's a full-time job.
Well, it is, but it's not, because basically, again, you're starting with this basic outline, and it's like, this is who we are, here's our headline, here's our sub-headline, these are our 3 main copy points, you're not going beyond that. This is our offer, here's our efficacy, that's it.
And they can't deviate.
Can't deviate.
So for UGC
I don't care how you do it,
content,
you can't deviate from that.
So for UGC content, do you do the same thing for?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely give any of the influencers or creators like a set of guidelines of what they can and cannot say. I mean, just so then we're all on the same line of the messaging and the brand.
So they can use their own voice, their own
Exactly.
wording, but
Yeah.
it's the message of what they're saying
Exactly
is
right.
non-negotiable.
I mean, we've sent out with influencer campaigns where we recruit, 500 to 1,000
travel
different
influencers
travel influencers,
Yeah.
and we give them a creative brief.
You
and
do,
then
okay.
They go and do what they want,
Yeah.
but staying within the confines
have
of
to
the
be
brief
within
in
that
terms of
message.
the key messaging strategy and our tagline, those things that must say, the do's and the don'ts. It's also really important to tell people what they can't say.
Yes,
Don't you?
I
I'm
think
sure
that's
you
more
agree.
important is what they absolutely cannot say, and really, that's the reason why we're utilizing affiliates or influencers, right? Is so that we can get an outside creativity outside of what your agency or company is already doing.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm going to put both of you on the spot here. Because I can't think of something. I'm trying to think of it for my own company. What's a good example that you've had recently of something you would say, you can't say this? What's a real world example? I can think of the things that I would want people to say about Mojo,
right,
but I can't think of things that I wouldn't want. A lot of things I wouldn't want them to say, but not enough that I would put it in writing. Don't say these. These are the things that you just can't bring up. Is there anything that
Well,
comes to
we're
mind there?
travel, so there's some really obvious ones, like don't show me any images of airplanes near Freedom Tower in New
Oh,
York City.
okay.
It
Yep,
came up
I understand.
recently. It literally came up recently.
Interesting.
9/11 reference.
Like, they can't make jokes about a plane crashing. I just
And we
think
don't
that-
want you. And then, and then there's some standards for, I think everybody agrees, there's religious holidays. You have to make a decision on whether you do or do not acknowledge them. Some companies are comfortable doing that. My company says, yes, we will, but we're completely inclusive.
Do you have
we
to
talk
approve?
about, we on my social media pages, I'm saying happy whatever. Happy Diwali is the next thing that we're doing, actually, because Diwali is coming up, which is a huge Hindu holiday. But we will also say Merry Christmas, and we will also say whatever, Happy Hanukkah, et cetera.
So is that do you have to typically review before the UGC is in? So influence is almost different than UGC, because the UGC, to me, somebody could just do a review and it becomes something you use. But for typically like an influencer, you give them that message. Do you have to review it before they post it typically, or
We
always?
do.
For us, yes.
Always,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's part of our guidelines for any of the partners that we work with, is that they get creative approval from us. We try to turn it around as fast as possible so then they can start running their campaign.
Got it. Jeff, I want to go back to one thing you talked about.
Let me just give you one quick thing.
Yeah, please.
So our biggest client is one of the largest health providers in the country. And one of the things you do not say trust.
Really?
Do not use the word trust with healthcare providers.
Why?
Because inherently, people do not trust healthcare
So
providers.
saying trust brings up their distrust.
If there was a reviewer, an influencer, or if it's a commercial and it's like we're the company you can trust, you don't.
Interesting.
So there are lots of other ways to say that,
Yep, yep.
but you do not say trust. That was a shocker.
Yeah, that is. So going back to your example where everything had become so splintered, right? So they brought you in because the messaging was all over the place, and depending on what channel it was in, that's not a problem that the metrics expose, right? That you could be getting a wonderful conversion rate and lots of sales on Twitter. You get lots of conversion rates with, let's say, an influencer campaign, a Facebook, and a TV campaign, a radio campaign, a print campaign. The messaging across them, that's an executive, that's a CEO recognizing that problem. How do you know if desplintering worked, right? So let's say you pull it all together, you get rid of the people that weren't doing it right. What if that actually hurt conversions? What if that actually hurt sales? It improved the corporate issue, but not necessarily what we are on the hook for, which is performance-driven media. Maybe that guy that was off the rails actually drove a lot of sales.
Well, the data reporting has become much better, as we all know, and the gray area and the muddiness when the crossover comes between the data that's organically generated, that's generated by a Facebook, that integrates with Instagram or whatever it is. It's not perfect, right? It's close, it's getting better, but you can see it. But really, what it really comes down to is sales. So if you're getting, 10 million or 1 million hits on TikTok, lots of views, no return, and it's not 35 cents, but it's $3.35, then you know the attribution is not there. Plus, the other thing that is continuity. Will people come back?
There you go. I wanted to jump in on you because direct response and branding are not at odds with each other. Because direct response is just taking and addressing those buying triggers. Like you said, a sale comes from the same place. I always call them buying triggers. Buying triggers do not change. Branding, what that does is it gives it an overlay. It gives this thing, whatever it is, a personality. And it gives, most importantly, branding gives a consumer a reason to trust. I'm funny saying trust now because of what you just said. Branding builds trust in it. And so when you're talking about splintering versus cohesive messaging, if it's a one-off deal and you're trying to sell Obama coins, this is coming out of my life, I'm trying to sell Obama coins one day during the inauguration, then I'm not going to worry about my branding.
Right.
But if you're trying to create a long-term play, you need to give consumers a reason to come back. Of course, the efficacy of the product is the most important thing, but equally important is them knowing you're real, you exist. We're service providers, if you will. We're airline tickets, right? They have to know we're not going to go away.
You want to
That's where you do
say
branding.
somebody or something you can rely on.
There you are.
If
Thank
I go
you.
to my restaurant and I get my favorite meal, I want to make sure it's the same.
When I go back.
A week later, a month, or 3 years later, you go, I could always rely on that.
Exactly right.
That's where it's at. That's what triggers the dopamine in people's mind when it comes down to buying, because they go, this new thing is too much of a hassle, or I'm searching. You know what? I know what I can rely on.
I want my old button. Yeah.
Right. Well, they have the app, and they're like, they have 100 pages of apps. Boom, here it is. It's paid. It's not a money issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the difference. It's we are triggered and animals of behavior and repetition, and until that fails, it's hard to get people to change.
Are there tools? I don't even have this one written down, but when you talked about, obviously you track and reporting is the way to figure out if that de-splintering process works. Excuse me. And obviously with affiliates, if you have thousands of affiliates, this is not managed in an Excel spreadsheet on somebody's desktop. Are there tools that help, in everyday company that maybe doesn't have the resources that you would have, or the resources that you would have, that make this very a lot of overhead that makes it simpler just tools that actually work, that maybe could manage your e-commerce along with Amazon and along with affiliate networks? Or is that just as splintered and, custom put together with duct tape, bubblegum, and a prayer, on a company-by-company
I have an
basis?
opinion, but I'll shut up.
I mean, like reporting-wise, I know that we use Tableau
Tableau.
to put everything together. I love our analytics team. They just give me nice spreadsheets to look at.
You said a key point, though, your
Yeah.
analytics team,
Analytics.
Yeah,
right?
we
So
have a
they
whole
pull
team.
in the data
Yep.
from everywhere and then Tableau to report on it.
Yep.
And yes, you can go to Newstar or Adara or many companies multi-touch attribution is very much a focus for everybody
Yeah.
in the world, has been for 10 years, and it's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no single perfect solution either. However, if you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, spend some time, go put yourself through Google Academy, which is free,
Yeah.
learn how to set up your campaign right, and if you set up the campaign right, you can track where the history of where something came from within your Google Analytics.
All the way down to the purchase.
You'll know.
Obviously, right, a purchase.
Yeah.
What about customer service problems, right? So take an affiliate. How do you recognize that a particular affiliate might be going off the rails, or that, Twitter, an influencer or something? How do you identify that as quick as possible? Is there any magic solution, or is it literally just eyes on it every day?
For me, my answer is older, because my last big problem with affiliate fraud was years and years ago. And at that time, it was 10 plus years ago. And at that time, it was very much complaints coming from my credit resource. Actually, I think it was Cambridge Commerce that called me up and said, "Hey, you got a problem."
Okay.
So
What's changed? The management of it, or the world of affiliates in general?
the corporatization of
Okay,
it.
so that's what
I
it is.
mean, the
So
Rocket
it's-
Towns of the world didn't
It is
exist
that
10 years
different
ago.
that fraud
Yeah.
is not the number one concern. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, and also the fintech technology to
Of identifying fraud.
identify fraud and stop fraud
Right,
in its
right.
tracks
Yeah.
is so much more robust than it was a decade ago.
Okay, next question. I'm going to change topics a little bit. So actually, you know what? A little bit. Pricing. Okay, so we're talking, you could be on Amazon, you could have affiliates, you could have your own e-commerce platform, and even you could have your own multiple places where the product could be on a corporate site and a landing page that's being driven, from a TV campaign. How does pricing get affected by this? Do you use the same price across the board? Is it the same price on Amazon as it is on your site? Are there any rules to this? Obviously, everything's 80-20, but I mean, is there a good guideline people should think about?
There's definitely rules, but you're the
Yeah.
most hands-on here today.
Well, I don't know about the guidelines, but for us personally, or at our company, we actually have sometimes we have different price points based on media costs, right? Some things might be cheaper to run on Facebook compared to Google or on native. So, and we have to also consider where this product is predominantly going to be sold on, right? Maybe let's talk about supplements, right? Supplements, I think, tend to run a little bit more on native, but we also have to consider the acquisition costs there, right? So, I've heard things where it has to be at least a $50 payout. So to make a $50 payout work, where do we have to price the supplement, right? So I don't know what the rules are because I'm not an analytics
And
team,
would that pricing affect just that particular campaign, or would you increase the pricing everywhere?
It's very product based.
It is, okay.
It's very product based, right? We also have to consider the consumer. We have a lot of different gadgets that we sell. How much, usually the sweet spot for a gadget is $40 to $50, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have to consider how much can we afford to pay the affiliate. So we have to consider our acquisition costs there.
Mm-hmm.
But we also do have different pricing models too. So sometimes that gets a little tricky because if we are going back to Amazon, having something on Amazon, what price do we display on Amazon if
Right.
there's different prices out?
And where would you
Yeah.
want them to buy it? Right. So I mean, if somebody gets the product gets in front of them because of the efforts of an affiliate, they might Google around and see if there's a better offer somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you want them to buy from one over the other? You don't have to name which ones you would want them to buy over, but is that a consideration? Do you want them to go one more than others?
It definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to say?
Well, it varies.
I think Jeff does, so you
It
can
really-
off the
yeah.
hook.
I want to hear what Jeff's
Yeah.
thinking.
I was
Like,
waiting for this.
We all
I know
want to
where
know,
it's
Jeff.
going
What's
on
in
my
your head?
end.
I could tell you this.
Jeff,
I
got
could do
anything?
a whole session on just this alone. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. But I want to hear your
All
feedback.
right, so I mean, this is for everything that we do. This is it. This is totally it because we are vendors at a lot of the big box stores, C chains, you know, whatever it is. It's home shopping. We sell internationally. We sell online. We have our own website and Amazon, right? Which is its own segment of that pie, right? So you have the whole pie, and then you have that wedge, which is digital, and that digital slivered into, you know, all the things I just said. So first is, what do you want to be? Do you want to be an online seller? Do you want to sell $1 million $10 or average order $29.99 products? People do it, right? You look at it and you go, how could that be? How could they make money at $5, you know, whatever it is? And, you know, constantly refilling that Amazon FBA or whatever it is, which I do. It's great, it's easy, but that margin's pretty darn thin, right? So, but on the other hand, you know they're going to go there first. So if you price low there, then everything else is wiped out. So for the most of the things that we're doing, we have a website. That website for us, we don't want to be that seller. I don't want to have a website for this product or brand, for the most part, that is the primary source of selling product online, because that is the showcase for that product, not only for the consumer, but for retailers and buyers. So when they say, oh, we like that product, and you're giving it to them at $2 or whatever it is less, then they feel better. And then your distribution really expands. Because now you're not solely based, or they don't feel they're competing with you online. Or they're not going to compete with themselves online. So if you have a big box store, the big box stores and their online big box store, you know, they're different companies. They don't talk to each other. So one is mutually exclusive of the other. So that price testing is crucial to pushing each one of these things, and you have to determine before you start. But if you go low first, and that's where they go, then everything else is contaminated. So you need to protect your price point and your brand.
And they're always looking. They
It's
don't
the
just take your
very
word for it for the
first
PDF you
thing.
printed out before the meeting. They're not
It's
looking at that.
You know it. I mean, and that's a battle with clients all the time because they go, well, we want to be the cheapest on our website. I'm like, no, you do not.
No, you don't.
You
So-
do not.
I heard once, whether it's true or not, but they seemed to think it was true, the highest price should be on your general e-commerce site. The lowest price should be on your D2C landing page. Amazon should be in the middle.
And then there's that combination, the combination of offers. That, you know, again, like we're doing, like
Yep.
you can't get this anywhere else.
Exactly
So wait a
right.
minute, it is cheaper. Oh yeah, but you have to buy 2 or 4 or free shipping or no
Exactly
free
right.
shipping. So-
Multi-pay. So we had a big campaign on Mojo with a major coffee product. And you could buy, when they launched this campaign, they had TV commercials and massive spend, and it was all driving to a landing page. And it was the exact same product that you could buy at Bed Bath & Beyond, and you could literally buy it at the exact same time at Stop & Shop. I saw it on the shelves. There was no difference in the product whatsoever. But the landing page was the only one that had 4-pay. Everywhere else, their own site, Amazon, everywhere else, it was a 1-pay. And that just gave that landing page a little bit more,
if you can
more
get
capable of buying, you know?
If you could get enough traffic and there's no cross
I was going to say,
contamination.
how does that affect traffic, though? That's
Because-
interesting.
Well, the TV campaign was always driving the traffic there. So, I mean, people would at least go and see it and then probably think I could go
Maybe.
buy this. Right, of course. Of course.
Because and the reason I say that is during the pandemic, I was working with a client for about a year before that, and I was convincing him to go. He's already launched heavily online and through all the social media, and a very solid spend. And then pandemic came, was how to play an instrument, boom, his company quintupled overnight. Famous people in it. You could stay home and play the piano. It was it. So okay, let's do TV. So he said, we'll just put a ghost page and we'll drive it through our site. I'm like, no. You have 100 things. There's no possible way anybody's going to go to this. We'll create our own URL and we'll create a $99 offer. That's his, you could get $99 or $500 or $1,000 on the site. So we did, and unfortunately, between the contamination of organic because of the name,
Right.
and people going, well, that looks pretty good, what else do they have?
And then they get overwhelmed and walk away.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So it didn't really work.
So with about 10 minutes left, I want to hit the elephant in the room of pretty much this entire conference. Inventory, right?
Oh, gosh.
Nobody has, everybody has supply chain inventory issues. How does that affect the cooperation or competition? Or do you have any experience with it yet as it relates to literally these other channels? So I mean, obviously Amazon is a key, consideration here, even Walmart. So for us, we have a customer, very big brand name, that they were reached out by one of the big retailers, and they said, give us everything you have. We don't care what box it is in. We will rebox it because we have to have product on our shelf. And their decision was, we need to keep this retailer happy at all costs, even if it is at the total consumption of our D2C campaign, right? So that's the competition part of it. It's, what is competition really, and we'll go back to cycle that back to inventory, but is cooperation and the competition, is it really appeasing one over the other because they can't be angered? Even Amazon's a great example. Does Amazon get that inventory? Because if you go out of inventory in Amazon, you get off that ranking because you're out of inventory, and you have to crawl your way back up to the top. Is that a decision that needs to be made in these times specifically, and for the next 6-9 months probably at least, that when it comes to competing and cooperating with the existing channels that you have today, given the inventory problems, how much work needs to be put into that? Anybody?
Refer to people.
It's a big one.
It's quite a challenge right now, right? I mean, I spent the summer pretty much forecasting everything that we're going to do this Q4, and just making sure that we're able to get inventory in time, and also allocating how much goes to affiliate traffic and compared to how much we need to have in Amazon.
That's it,
I mean,
exactly.
it's so hard because we don't have a crystal ball, right? And then the other side of it is it's a cash flow issue, right? Like how much do we order where we're tying up all of our resources to stock up, where really we don't know how things are going to perform, right? There's so many different levers going on. We're doing the best we can just based on historical figures and what we've done, in previous Q4s with some goals in mind. But it's a really hard question to answer because we're doing
so
the best
big.
we can. Yeah, exactly. We're not fortune tellers.
So, Kathy, you might actually have this in a different angle. You don't necessarily have physical inventory, but last year you had just as many issues just with travel in
Last
general.
year, I watched the entire,
Right.
our sales dropped 97% in one day.
Hard.
Last year was a year like no other.
What day was that?
March 13th.
Is there a pecking order, right? If you have inventory, you have a certain number of things that can be sold. I mean, the things that just
In
have
terms
to
of our
go-
marketing channels, I mean, that's why I didn't sit up to answer this question, because it doesn't really apply. There are global distribution systems from which all online travel agencies and aggregators pull their
okay.
airline tickets. So it's not like nobody cuts side deals. Everybody's selling the same thing at the same price,
Jeff?
basically.
Totally different, again, as usual. Our Amazon is based on a constant flow and maintaining a certain level of inventory at Amazon.
Why?
Because we can pretty much predict, and we're testing. We have one, we own a product that we make here in the United States. It's made in the breadbasket. It's fulfilled by our own fulfillment company, and it's, diverted off to the FBAs. So even when we test, there's a set number we put in, and then there's that alarm that goes off that says, hey, it's time to refill. That usually gives us a little bit of time because it's never down to zero. But we pretty much know of the batches of stuff that we make, we're going to allot a certain amount to Amazon. So that's that. In terms of, we're bringing in stuff now from China, and everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
And even what you said, in terms of, hey, we'll take whatever you have, that's if you could get it there.
Yeah.
Do you have the truckers? Are there enough people at the dock? Can you get an appointment? Yeah.
Like US, just within
Yeah,
the US.
yeah.
So it's not about the barges sitting outside of LA
We
right
had
now.
inventory in the Midwest, and we said we could get it out the door in 3 days. They couldn't take it.
Really?
It would be a month before they were able to accept it.
And that's a recent?
Yeah, because in the summer, because of the COVID restrictions, the amount of less, trucking's a little bit better now, but dock the
dock workers.
the dock workers, not the dock workers, but the guys at the freight entrances. There's only so many. They're probably doing half as many unloads every single day as they did prior to pre-COVID. So, there's a ton of different types of things, and as you said, yeah, you're appeasing these guys. We will make no money on these things, but you know what? We'll have product, and if we can get it into the hands of the people who buy it, whether it's consumers or buyers or anything else, then hopefully in the next 6 months when it eases up, we'll be there already.
So is it about maintaining that relationship and the trust?
Yep.
Can't use that word.
Totally, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got to maintain that, and at any cost. And it's very difficult to do that with product owners and investors who are putting in money into this, and they're like, "Holy crap, we've got all this inventory, tied up." I mean, I do. I have my own in now, but it's like breathe. It will come back. We will lose a little interest for sure.
Play the long game. It's hardest
It's a long game.
with new products. I mean, if you've got an existing product where you can forecast more easily, obviously, if it's got some history. So it's, it's the most challenging for the new entrants.
Yeah, totally.
So with only a few minutes left, are there any obvious questions I didn't ask that you were dying to bring up and answer?
Oh, so many. No, I'm just joking. I think in terms of, like following along with like the inventory stuff, I think we also kind of forget, like we can also use that as a scarcity play in marketing, right? Or like legitimately, I see so many like fake timers or like fake quantity count now. Like this
You can't
is
do
like,
that anymore.
yeah, you can't do that anymore. Like now you really can because, I mean, even for affiliates, right? Like we, if there's like a really hot product, we can only allocate it to like our top affiliates that are going to be able to fulfill it, right? Like we don't open it up to people. So like there's that exclusivity play that we have with our special partners. So yeah, like sometimes it's a good thing because it's also like a USP, right? Like you can only get this particular product with us, and like if you promote this campaign, then like we'll allocate these resources for you. So it's kind of a bit of a marketing tactic or sales tactic, I guess you can say. But yeah, it comes with good and bad.
Kathy?
Oh, I'm all stuck on we can't use urgency tactics at all anymore. No,
That's true. That was,
no, I don't really have. You've done a lot of focus here on affiliates. Talked a little bit about SEM. No, I think you've been pretty comprehensive.
Before I
Love
go
to
to
hear
you.
what the audience thinks, however.
before I go to Jeff, I have one question. Did that come up with the legal talk in yesterday's session?
Yeah, it was towards the end, and it's a thing called dark patterns. They've given a spooky name.
Oh, they
to
named it?
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like
I could
as I said,
I could teach a course in this one.
yeah, as I said yesterday, it sounds like a spin-off of Stranger Things or something. But dark patterns, and it's the clocks. It's the oh, you don't want your travel insurance? Are you
Shaming.
Yeah, is your you don't care about your family?
No, I don't want to protect my family and buy
Right,
the
right,
insurance.
that kind of stuff. So they are really on top of that and going to be even more so going forward.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you. Jeff?
So again, back to the what seems so obvious then and now are exactly the same. And what I mean by that is this. So if you had a product, a service, or whatever it is, and it was, let's say, a science fiction movies, you go, hey, they have a sci-fi channel. No, wrong place. Those people already have whatever it is, or they've seen it.
Yeah.
You want to go to the game show network because those people like it, but would consider buying or collecting. It's like, oh, that would be great to have, right? So now, great short story, which I just, was on a Zoom with Jennifer, I think her name is Telfer. She's the inventor of pillow pets. So she was great because she's your everyday person. She is not an experienced marketer, and that's what she said. I'm not. I came up with this idea, and team just really ran with it. And now they've kind of flattened out. But they have like 120 SKUs, and they've got things, she said, this failed, this didn't. And somebody said, hey, you should go on TikTok. She goes, oh, I'll call the team. No, You should go on TikTok. Me? I'm not a pitch person. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Go on a white background. She took her pillow pet, her phone, this framing, pulled in the smell around pillow pet. Oh, this one's lavender. It'll make you sleep. Boom! Couldn't make them enough.
Yep.
So it's all the things that are obvious
Yeah, coming
are the
back.
things that are not.
Yeah.
And it's the same now. So it's kind of like, who would think that that would work? Why? Because it's also like 2 generations now removed.
Yep.
So the
Yeah.
kids of the kids are buying it.
Yep.
Yep.
Or
Back-
buying it for them. So
Yep, yeah.
anyway, that's
I tell people stop spending so much on like a DSLR camera and just shoot on your iPhone. Like, trust me, like
Yeah.
it will go much farther.
Yeah, it's the content, it's not the source.
Right.
It's like you have highly produced shows that, I don't know, pick one, I'd be dated if I pick one, and then you have The Office that almost look like a shaky camera that
Yep.
just follows people around, it just feels more organic.
People are feeling that you're selling to them too much when
Yeah.
when the production level is too high.
Right, exactly.
And weirdly enough, when we first started, and people were seeing, oh no, it's like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Who would buy from that?
Yeah.
Like, you have
They
no
did,
idea.
yeah.
Millions and millions of people, it turns
Exactly.
out.
Right.
Yes.
So
And it goes back to your statement that the buying triggers never change, or my statement.
they don't.
Our joint statement.
Yeah,
They
the
don't.
fundamentals have never changed.
And, just one other quick thing, because I know you're going to agree with this, is the buying trends, the principles are the same, but how you present it. A millennial does not want to be told what to buy.
Nope.
Right.
Show me what you are, who you stand for, and what it is that you're giving back, and how will it improve my life and life around me, and I'll think about it.
Yep.
Guys like me, you're like, I'm not interested in buying, but go ahead. If it's good, I'll pay. So it's the same principles, but it's how it's formatted. Selling, right? Phone or a set.
Yep.
Same thing. Just looks different, sounds a little different, same selling points.
Perfect.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
Mr. Hare?
Questions? You guys are good.
Well, we're
Well,
having fun.
Gotta be something.
Well, thank you.
They will be up here for a few.
Thank you,
Please,
thank you.
thank you.